day's a day, a bad luck's always a coming my way.
The dust radiant teach a first flash of Eden, we race down to the sea. Stand in there on freedom shore.
For today's Grimm adventure, we find ourselves once again in the city of Paris. Right now we're walking through Père Lachaise Cemetery, making our way to the back to where Jim Morrison's final resting place is. And I'm gonna say this, if you're a fan of The Doors, there's a good chance you're gonna love this video.
Jim Morrison, the lead singer for The Doors, a rock music group, is dead. He was 27. His personal manager said he died in Paris, probably of heart failure, last Saturday.
The death of another rock musician was disclosed today. Jim Morrison, 27 years old, lead singer of The Doors. His manager said Morrison died 6 days ago in Paris, either of a heart attack or pneumonia. But the death was kept secret to avoid a sensation. He was buried in Paris in the same cemetery where Balzac and other French immortals lie.
Now technically this is the second video we shot here at the cemetery. We call it Père Lachaise, some people call it Père Lachaise. But if you want to see that video that we did, the link is going to be in the description below. But this one here is all about Jim Morrison. Now baby ghoul, when I was doing the intro to this video, I saw this and I have to show it to you. So these gates over here, there's two tombs inside. One of them, the slab on top is open. Well, it's moved over and you can actually look down inside. It's not very deep. Right, that's still pretty neat. Pretty wild, right? Now, walking back to Jim's grave, we're passing things like this. And let me just say, if you're not careful, you can literally spend all day in this cemetery taking pictures, walking around, seeing famous graves. And that's exactly what we did yesterday. We came in here with an itinerary and we saw everything we wanted to see and then so much more. And then coming back today, there's even more that we didn't see yesterday. So it's crazy. But this pathway right here takes us back to Jim's final resting place. We are almost there. Just up this little cobblestone path. About the center of your screen is where you'll find Jim Morrison. It's kind of pretty surreal walking through here and just hearing people speaking French around us. Beautiful day for a cemetery trip. So over here, you can see on both sides of this mausoleum, there are fences. They have these barricades. You can't get close. You can't like get up on his grave. But there is still a lot of stuff to see. So you can see the barricades. And right over here is Jim's final resting place. You can see this tree. There's like some bamboo fencing around it. And there's a bunch of bubble gum. So do not touch the bubble gum. Jim's final resting place is right here. Crazy, right? James Douglas Morrison, 1943 to 1971, and there's a saying down there that it translates, I do believe it says he caused his own demons. Get a little closer look at that. How wild is that? Now here's a little fun piece of trivia that not many people talk about when they come here, especially if you're a fan of ghosts. Now, if you're a believer in the paranormal, What if Jim Morrison actually haunted this place? What if his ghost lingers here at the cemetery? Well, quite some time ago, there was a man who came here, a tourist, who had his picture taken. He was standing right behind Jim's tombstone. And right back there, right near that door, appears to be a figure that most people, a lot of people, think is Jim himself. He's like striking that pose that he's most known for. Now, odd thing about this, it was like 10 years after the guy took the photo, he noticed this. And a lot of people think, I mean, to me it looks a little hokey, but how cool would it be if during this video, Jim Morrison himself, the Lizard King, decided to make an appearance? I'm actually surprised there's not a lot more people here. At the time of recording this, it's a Saturday, and I thought for sure that this place would be filled with tours, but not so much. And here's a view of his gravestone from the other side, hidden back there. Now, over the years, I'm sure you can go online and you can find different pictures of different graffiti all over this place. There was a bust at one point that somebody cut the nose off and somebody stole it. But the stone that's here now was actually bought and placed here by his parents, I do believe. They're the ones that put that quote there. So it's been maintained and they've been trying to keep it preserved as best as possible. It's nice to see flowers in a few pictures. The tour groups are starting to show up, so I decided to move out of the way a little bit and talk about Jim's funeral. Now, there are people out there who believe that Jim didn't die back in 1971, that his body is not in the grave here. So we're going to get into some of that a little bit later on, but let's just say for a fact, let's just say that Jim did die. His funeral, from everything that I've gathered, Pamela, she bought the cheapest coffin and had a very cheap funeral. Only about 10 people showed up, surprisingly, and it didn't really last long. There was an interview with a woman, I think it was like one of the anniversaries, where she said that it was a very pitiful funeral. Not many people showed up. It was over just as quick as it began. None of his friends were there. And it's just a little odd, right? Jim Morrison, The Doors. And why in this one particular place is this where he's at, with not a very big tombstone? Really makes you wonder. Now, some time leading up to his death, almost like he knew, it said that Jim walked through this cemetery with a friend, and they visited Chopin's grave and Oscar Wilde's grave, and just walked around. And he said that whenever he died, he wanted to be buried here amongst the greats, the poets. And then he died. And then he's here. Did he predict his death? Was he just kind of planning something? Who knows? But people come from all over the world, including us. Pretty wild, right? Well, that was quick. The tour groups have shown up in full swing right now. Even though you can't get close to his grave, there are a few things that people have done. You should never do this, but there are people that have carved things and wrote things on the tombs near Jim's grave. I'll show you a few of those. This one here on the wall looks pretty faded, but it looks like at one point it said, "No one here gets out alive." This is not a pen mark. It looks like somebody actually carved LA Woman into the side of this tomb here. And it looks like this one probably gets the brunt of it. Because if I swing the camera around this way and put it inside, I'm going to lean over the bar here a little bit. A lot of these tombs, the doors and the stained glass windows are broken, but it says, "Before I sink into the big sleep, I want to hear the scream of the butterfly." See it right there? Back the camera out. More people are showing up for tours. Oh, baby ghoul. We are now deep in the heart of Paris. Walking the streets, taking in the views. It's nice weather. A little further down this street right here, a couple blocks, is where Jim Morrison lived and died here in Paris. He shared an apartment with Pamela. So basically, this was Jim Morrison's neighborhood. And walking these streets, I can clearly see why he was living here. I don't know how long he was living at this particular address, but they call, what, Paris the city of lovers, the city of lights. A lot of poetry, a lot of art that came from here. Makes sense that he found a home here. I'm gonna try really hard not to butcher this, but the street that Jim lived on is called Rue Boutry. I think I said that correctly. Probably wrong, you can't really, I tried. These streets kind of act like a wind tunnel with the wind whipping down here. But it's crazy to think, like right now we're walking to where Jim lived. We're gonna point it out, we're gonna talk about it. But it's crazy to think that this was his neighborhood, that he would walk these same streets. My mind is blown. Now, don't get me wrong, visiting Jim's grave at the cemetery, mind blown. But this, where he actually lived and walked, it just kind of hits differently. This place really is nothing but photo opportunities. Now, as we walk down the street a little further, this building right there is the one that we're here looking for. We'll walk out in the street a little bit. Look how beautiful that is. So this is where Jim Morrison lived and died. Now, what's crazy about this is a lot of times whenever you see videos about Jim Morrison or the Doors on YouTube, it's always in Los Angeles, never really in Paris. Standing here looking at the front of the building, did not expect to see any kind of graffiti on it. But here's Jim Morrison right here. Now that is cool. There's actually a few different things. There's this one here, and then right next to it, a couple different homemade pictures. Right? And then if we come down here, the end. That's a nice little touch. Looking at the picture of Jim again, just notice that there's dates faintly written right there, 1943 to 1971. I don't think I said this earlier, but he died July 3rd, 1971. He was 27 years old. Because the streets are so cramped, it's a little hard getting this shot, but that's the front door right there. Now, he shared the third floor apartment with Pamela, but in America, in the States, that would be the fourth floor. So there's the first floor, second floor, third floor, and fourth floor is going to be right about there. I think I got it situated. I think the official police report was Pamela and Jim went to the movies and then they came home, went to bed, and at some point in the middle of the night, Jim woke up coughing and he went to go take a bath, and that's where Pamela found him dead. And the official police report was a heart attack. But it's if you believe it. A lot of people believe that he actually didn't die here. He died at a nightclub, and to avoid a scandal, they quietly removed his body and put it over here in the bathtub, if you believe that. There's a lot of speculation and legends and lore. Supposedly, nobody actually ever saw the body. So that's kind of what fueled it.
The reason you're just finding out about it is they just decided to tell you about it. Let me read this verbatim. A spokesman for the public relations firm representing the Doors rock musical group says the group's lead singer, James Morrison, had died in Paris last Saturday, Paris, France. Efforts to confirm the report in Paris were not immediately successful. The spokesman, Bob Gibson, of the public relations firm of Gibson and Stromberg in Los Angeles, could give no explanation of the delay in announcing the death. Gibson says he learned of Morrison's death of apparently natural causes from William Siddons, the singer's personal manager. Unofficially, I can tell you Mr. Morrison is dead. We are waiting Mr. Siddons' arrival here to make it official. So, Jim Morrison is dead, and they say natural causes, which is really a strange thing in a 30-year-old person, or thereabouts. I don't know how old he was really.
Our journey telling the story of the death of Jim Morrison now takes us further into the streets of Paris. Right now we're standing on a street known as Rue de Seine, and back in 1971, there's a building across the street, I'm going to point it out, was the Rock and Roll Circus, where it is believed, a story is, that Jim Morrison actually died there in the bathroom. Can't go inside, but I can show you the door. The address of the old Rock and Roll Circus here in Paris is actually 57 Rue de Seine, and that's these blue doors right over here. I'm going to try not to get hit by a bicycle. Can't believe I'm saying that. It's crazy to think that this is part of the story, right? So the story goes, on the night of his death, he was in this nightclub partying, Rock and Roll Circus, and he did a little too much drugs and he died in the bathroom. And to avoid a scandal, they snuck his body out the back and then took it back to the apartment that he shared with Pam, and they put him in the bathtub. It's crazy. There's absolutely no way that we're going to be able to get back there. I reached out to people asking, seeing if we can, and nobody has gotten back to me. But somewhere down this little corridor was the entrance to the club. Right now I'm just kind of peeking through the hole right here. All I can say is Paris is a massive place with a whole bunch of history. I'm sure if we had the time, we could probably track down even more locations that both Pam and Jim shared. But for now, I think this is good. A little bit of the life and death, some stories of Jim and his time here in Paris. With that being said, from Paris, thank you for joining us on another Grimm adventure, and until next time, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.